They say real betrayal always leaves a mark, but mine didn't involve touch, or lies, or even a raised voice. It began in the quiet, with a dish towel, and a man I wasn't supposed to notice. I'm Elaine. I didn't plan to fall for anyone, especially not him. But if you've ever felt like a ghost in your own marriage, this story might feel closer than you think. Before we begin, please like, subscribe, and share this video if you've ever wondered what love looks like after it stops feeling like love. Now, let me take you there. Nestled in the serene embrace of the woods just beyond Eugene, Oregon, my home stands as a testament to modern design and tranquility. Expansive windows that stretch from the floor to the ceiling. Floors of white oak, subdued hues, all things arranged perfectly, myself included. I am 47 years old, joined in matrimony, without children. My husband Richard is engaged in product strategy at a technology firm. He possesses a keen intellect, pristine, on time, endearing, yet always adhering to the narrative. He presses his lips gently against my forehead. He praises my culinary skills. He never fails to pick up milk. He has always remained faithful. He never elevated his tone. It has never let me down, at least in theory. Yet love cannot be confined to mere words on a page. That evening, Richard excused himself from the dinner table, as was his custom, to answer a call upstairs. The reception is quite poor down here, he often remarks. Yet he truly favors the distinction between work and life and emotion. He navigates the world with the precision of a checklist composed effective and just a touch elusive. On that particular night, his father had come to visit. Henry. He arrived from Michigan, eager to spend a few days in our company. He stepped away from the grind, having spent decades laboring with his hands mending aged homes, reviving wooden vessels. A serene figure, aged yet inviting. He entered the room, and it came alive, yet he asked for nothing in return. To my surprise, I found myself feeling something in his presence. Yet I found myself taken aback by how the silence that lingered between us seemed to carry a weight of its own. Not devoid, not suggestive, simply here. Once Richard ascended the stairs, Henry extended his offer to assist me in tidying up. Initially, I declined, as is my usual response. Yet he persisted softly, without any commotion, and I acquiesced. It was at that moment that I became aware of it. The manner in which he dried the plates as though it held significance. His movements were a whisper in the stillness. The manner in which he inquired, without uttering the words, "Are you still here? Do you still sense the pulse of existence?" Certainly, he never uttered those phrases. Yet I listened intently. That evening, I lay down next to a man who still held affection for me, yet had not genuinely seen me in what felt like an eternity. For the first time in ages, my heart softly murmured, "I recall this sensation." The following morning, I descended the stairs before anyone else had stirred. The house lay in silence, enveloped in the gentle gray light of Oregon mornings, damp, misty, and tenderly soft. I anticipated solitude. As I stepped into the kitchen, I found Henry already present. He failed to utter a simple good morning. He remained silent about the weather. He gave a single nod as if he had anticipated my arrival. Upon the counter rested 2 mugs side by side. One is already steaming. He passed it to me, silent, devoid of any formality. The gentle warmth of the ceramic cradled in my fingers, while his hand grazed mine for a fleeting moment. The weight of that moment lingered in my mind far longer than it ought to have. Silence enveloped us. There was no necessity for that. The silence that enveloped us held no discomfort. It was magnanimous, complete. A silence that lingers, unhurried, and content to remain unspoken. He grasped his mug and made his way to the window seat. I lingered in the kitchen, feigning interest in the emails on my phone, yet predominantly I was attuned to the subtle dance of silence that accompanied his presence. Throughout the day, I observed details that had previously escaped my notice. I adjusted my posture as I walked past him. As I adjusted my shirt with care, smoothing it down more than once, I prepared to step into the room where he awaited. I became aware of his scent, warm, clean, devoid of any cologne. Only him, resembling cedar wool and an essence of humanity. And in those moments, when my gaze fell upon him, I loathed the way his voice resonated within me, so effortlessly identifiable. The soft creak of his footfall. He cleared his throat, a low and succinct sound. The gentle exhale that escaped his lips, a soft sigh, following the meticulous adjustment of the door hinge. Everything was entirely appropriate, yet everything settled deep beneath my skin. That evening, following the meal, Richard took his leave once more. I nodded, a reflexive gesture ingrained in me. As he ascended to his office, he pressed a gentle kiss to my temple, his words already flowing about a delayed meeting. I began my ascent up the stairs as well. It happened without thought. Known. Yet there he was, Henry nestled in the living room, solitary, bathed in the gentle yellow light of the aged floor lamp. He held a book in his hand, one ankle gracefully crossed over the other, yet anchored. I came to a halt. In that moment, compelled by an unseen force, I took a seat opposite him. He kept his gaze fixed downward. There was no necessity for him to do so. He turned a page deliberately and with a measured grace. I allowed myself to linger in that moment. For nearly half an hour, silence enveloped us, with not a word passing between us. He immersed himself in the pages. I continued to scroll. The stillness that enveloped us seemed to pulse with a vibrant energy. In that moment of clarity, a revelation dawned upon me. I found myself devoid of any longing for affection. Romance was not something I found myself longing for. I found myself reflecting on the sensation of sharing a space with another individual while still retaining my own identity. The hour was late. Silence had enveloped the house. Richard lingered upstairs, enveloped in darkness, likely lost in a sea of work emails until the embrace of sleep finally claimed him. I indulged in a lengthy shower, one that stretched beyond the ordinary, not out of necessity. Yet there was an undeniable part of me that resisted the call of sleep. Not at this moment. I entered the hallway, enveloped in a towel, my skin still glistening with warmth from the steam. It was at that moment that I laid eyes on him. Henry, positioned at the corridor's terminus, grasping a screwdriver, in the midst of movement, enveloped in a stillness that speaks of winter's grasp. We came to a halt, both of us frozen in the moment. He maintained his gaze, nor did I. The towel slipped just a fraction, revealing more of my thigh than I had intended. I ought to have made the necessary adjustments. I did not. Our gazes intertwined, not with hunger. Yet there was an essence of acknowledgement that lingered in the air. "You're trembling," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. I was uncertain whether he intended for those words to escape his lips. Perhaps he did not. "Perhaps it's due to your proximity," I responded. Yet my voice faltered. It did not convey irritation. It resonated as an invitation. He remained still, not advancing in my direction. Yet he remained steadfast, not taking a step back. The kiss unfolded unexpectedly. It unfolded at a measured pace. It just unfolded, as if the moment had been biding its time. It felt as though we had been orbiting around it, never quite daring to speak its name. His lips bore the parched evidence of neglect. Cozy. There is no rush. There's no need to feel any pressure. Only a silent yearning. He kissed me with the depth of someone who grasped the weight of loss, determined to savor every moment before it slipped away. I allowed myself to draw closer, not driven by desire, yet born from desire, for the sake of breath, for existence, for someone to quiet the tumult within me, to soften its roar. As we bid farewell, it was I who took the first step back, not out of desire. Yet uncertainty loomed over me, leaving me to ponder what my course of action would be should I choose to remain. Silence enveloped us, a heavy shroud of unspoken words. I made my way back to the bathroom, shut the door quietly behind me. I gazed into the mirror, contemplating my reflection. For the first time in years, I felt a presence that made me realize I was no longer invisible. As dawn broke, Richard proposed that we escape for the weekend. A cabin, he remarked, in a tranquil place. A captivating hot spring awaits near Glenwood in Colorado. It has been quite some time since we engaged in anything of that nature. His intentions were good. Yet my heart, that part of me that had been in flux, receded like a tide. I believe I shall remain, I declared. There are matters I need to attend to here. He refrained from pressing the matter. He seldom did. By the stroke of noon, his suitcase lay packed and ready. He pressed his lips to my cheek, his attention only half engaged, then vanished down the driveway, like a man fleeing the mundane, blissfully unaware that the true escape had already taken place. Within my being. After he departed, the house seemed to exude a new essence, more buoyant, not more liberated, not at this moment. Yet it was a stillness that seemed attainable. Henry refrained from uttering a word about the events that transpired. He neither knocked on my door, nor left me enigmatic notes. He merely occupied space, in my vicinity, in close proximity. On that evening, we shared a meal, merely the two of us, nothing extravagant. Charred vegetables, a serving of rice accompanied by a glass of wine. The kiss remained unspoken between us. There was no necessity for that. The atmosphere surrounding us was charged with restraint, with awareness, with an essence that was both weighty and exquisite. He made no move to touch me. I refrained from leaning in once more. Yet within that room, every sound, the delicate clink of cutlery, and the hushed pauses between sips resonated like a whispered confession. It seemed that was the instant we both realized this was not destined to fade away. It came to me unexpectedly. In my search for a tablecloth, I found myself reflecting on an item I hadn't utilized in quite some time. The hallway closet brimmed with a haphazard collection of aged linens, crumpled gift wrap, and remnants of memories long past. And there it lay a moment, suspended in time. A simple paper bag, free of dust, concealed carefully behind a pile of forgotten candles, within a container, slender and elongated, enveloped with tenderness, devoid of embellishments, absent of labels, merely a creased sheet of paper resting under the cover. Should it not find its place, discard it. It contained nothing more than that. I settled onto the floor, the box resting in my lap, my heart drumming against my ribs, as if it were privy to secrets I had yet to uncover. As I raised the lid, my breath caught in my throat. It was a shade of ivory, gentle fluid, ethereal, not alluring, not immediately apparent. However, observed, a delicate garment of intimate allure, the precise measurement of my form. There shall be no room for speculation. There is no error. A selection made not for the sake of admiration, but as a gesture of recognition. I did not apply it. Not at this moment. Yet, for a fleeting instant, I pressed the material against my skin. And a flicker within me recalled that I remained a woman, more than a mere wife, more than merely a position, a lady. He remained silent regarding the box, yet as dawn broke, he inquired whether I would be interested in embarking on a drive. To the lake, he stated with quiet resolve. We left without packing. Food was not part of our provisions. We simply departed. It was approximately an hour away, a serene spot nestled near the shores of Lake Michigan. A weathered cabin, modest-aged, enveloped by trees that had mastered the art of bending to the breeze. Our words were few and far between. He opened the door as if it were an instinctive gesture, absent without notice, without a moment's pause, as if I was destined to be in that place. Within the air was infused with the essence of cedar and the passage of time. The furnishings were an eclectic mix, plush and well-loved, a realm where sound seemed out of place. We found ourselves perched at opposite ends of a weathered couch. Our knees remain apart. The stillness held a certain ease. It was acknowledged, recognizable, as if we were two souls who had traversed this path previously in a different existence. He refrained from making contact with me. I remained where I was not inching any closer. We simply took our seats. In that profound silence, I experienced a sense of being truly acknowledged more than I had in countless exchanges over the years. Time slipped away. He chose not to mention the kiss. He chose not to mention the cabin. I refrained from inquiring. Yet on one particular evening, I chose to don the ivory piece beneath my dress. It was not something I had anticipated. It simply resonated within me. The evening meal was unpretentious. Remnants of soup, delightful little bites of crispness, an unfinished bottle of wine. As he extended his hand across the counter, I found myself grasping his wrist softly, almost without thinking. He cast his gaze in my direction, and I kept my gaze steady. I leaned in closer. This kiss lacked tenderness. It lacked caution. It was undeniable. I kissed him with the certainty of one who had made up her mind long before, as if she had ventured beyond the boundaries, not physically, but within the depths of her thoughts. His hand found its way to my waist, honorable, unwavering. Yet my skin sizzled beneath its touch. As we said our goodbyes, I remained rooted in place. I simply inhaled, and he inhaled alongside me. Silence prevails. Fear not, only the truth. On a Sunday evening, Richard made his return. He entered a bag of firewood in hand, accompanied by the subtle aroma of pine. Sun-kissed skin, at ease. A gentle smile graces the lips. He pressed his lips to my cheek, a gesture both nonchalant and distant, and inquired, "Did you miss me?" I returned the smile. I uttered the phrases that were expected of me. After that, I prepared dinner. We engaged in conversation about the little details, the cost of fuel, a newcomer in the neighborhood, a neighbor's new dog. The lake lay in serene silence. At first glance, all appeared unchanged. Yet a profound transformation had taken place within me, leaving me feeling like an intruder in my own home. He remained oblivious. He was neither unkind nor indifferent. He remained kind, ever vigilant. Yet, Richard, yet I had transformed. What I bore was not guilt. It was a moment of realization, a quietude that had taken root within me, silent, profound, unchangeable. There I stood, enveloped by the familiar walls of spaces I had called home for countless years, and encountering them for the very first time. The kitchen seemed to shrink in size. The expanse of the bed seemed almost overwhelming. The timbre of his voice, which once wrapped around me like a warm embrace, now seemed like a barrier I had to penetrate to rediscover my own essence. 3 days slipped by before I finally allowed myself to confront the inevitable. The rain fell, gently, a persistent drizzle that found its way into your sleeves, urging a moment of truthfulness within. I left my umbrella behind. I did not practice beforehand. I ambled along my coat, barely a shield drenched by the time I arrived at his threshold. He opened it with an air of indifference. He moved aside, offering no words of inquiry. The warmth enveloped the space within, excessively warm. I lingered at the threshold of the hallway, water cascading from me, my body trembling, not from the chill, but from the weight of the words I was on the verge of uttering. "I have come to bid farewell," I declared. He gazed at me for an extended moment, calm and composed, unscathed, simply observing me. "I had my suspicions," he murmured softly. I inclined my head in agreement. "I harbor no regrets," I murmured softly. "I don't either," he replied. Our silence enveloped the unspoken bond we shared, or what it signified. There existed neither a what if nor a someday. The quietude enveloped two souls who had once intertwined in something genuine, now gracefully allowing their connection to dissolve without shattering its essence. I advanced with purpose, not for permanence, yet to bridge the distance that separates us one final time. Our lips met in a gentle embrace, not with desire, yet with a sense of appreciation. His lips retained a lingering warmth, ever so recognizable, yet they ceased to resonate with the depths of my being. As I drew back, a smile graced my lips. Indeed, he did as well. "I wish to linger in your thoughts," I expressed. "I trust you feel the same," he responded. And thus it came to an end. I pivoted, gently pushed the door ajar, and retreated into the embrace of the rain. That evening, I found myself lying next to Richard, just as I had for countless years before. His breath flowed with a calm consistency. One arm languidly rested upon my waist. The house resonated with the well-known melody of refrigerators and creaking floorboards, echoing the stories of lives constructed and rooted within its walls. All remained as it was, and yet all had changed. I gazed at the ceiling, my eyes wide in the darkness, my body still moist from the rain's embrace. No longer would I remain in a state of anticipation. Not a single word, not for a mere touch, not even for the sake of comprehension. I had traversed a realm within myself, not in pursuit of another, but in flight from something, departing from necessity, born from desire, from wishing he would perceive me in ways beyond his understanding. This was not a victory. This was not pain. It was nothing short of truth. The sort of truth that lingers softly within your very essence. Quiet. Feeling a sense of disappointment. Merely motionless. I had desired. I had made my choice. And now, I had come back. Yet it remains distinct. He was unaware. He may remain oblivious. Perhaps that was perfectly acceptable, because the part of me that once yearned for more was no longer yearning, not due to the discovery of another. Yet for a brief moment, I discovered my true self. This wasn't a story about betrayal. No lines were crossed in rage. No lies were told with venom. No one burned a home to the ground. This was quieter, more dangerous. Because sometimes the most painful betrayals don't come from what someone does, but from what they never notice. Elaine didn't fall into temptation. She didn't chase fantasy. She walked slowly, silently toward something we all crave, but few dare to name presence. We talk a lot about marriages that break from screaming, from affairs, from violence, from sudden absence. But what about the marriages that stay intact? While something vital withers inside Richard never cheated, never yelled. He remembered to pick up groceries. He kissed her forehead. He wasn't bad. And yet he was absent in all the ways that mattered most. Elaine didn't leave because of anger. She didn't choose Henry because of lust. She simply remembered something herself. Sometimes the deepest ache is not being unloved, but being unseen. She didn't want more affection. She wanted recognition. To be felt in the room, to be met in silence, to be known without performance. And Henry, with his stillness, gave her that mirror. Not to tempt her, but to remind her that she still had a pulse. So maybe the story doesn't end with scandal, but with awareness. Maybe the real heartbreak isn't when someone leaves, but when someone stays, and we slowly disappear next to them. Have you ever felt invisible in your own marriage? Is it worse to leave someone, or to stay and forget who you are? If this story made you feel something, anything, tell me below. Like if it stirred something inside you. Subscribe to hear more stories that don't just entertain, they wake something up. Because you are not alone, and your story still matters.